egotistical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 6 of the Patron Feedback Show, the podcast where we get to talk to patrons of the SNL Network, and they co-host the podcast with us over here, answer some social media questions, or talk about social media, answer some patron questions. I guess there could be some questions about social media, and we get to have a lot of fun with the patrons. It's a very fun chat at the end of the week as we close the chapter on 1 week of SNL and look towards the next. And these have been just a delight to do every single week with different patrons. And joining us this week for the first time on the podcast, all the way from Melbourne in Australia, it's Benjamin Lamb. Ben, how are you?
Hello, John. I'm very good. So excited to be joining you on this and so pumped to be talking about SNL and the amazing season we've had so far.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to have you on the show, Ben. It's been a really exciting season. I know that we chatted a little bit before the season and a couple times during as well. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I work as a print and radio journalist here and definitely cover a lot of sort of comedy news and music news and a lot of the SNL music stuff, which, of course, last week we had a massive music thing. So hopefully we talk about that. And yeah, that's how we've crossed paths in the past, just talking about SNL and stuff like that, and a lot of pop culture stuff, and more on the SNL watching side. I've been kind of maybe 10 years ago, sort of got onto it through YouTube and just went through heaps of different YouTube rabbit holes. We didn't really get the full episodes here. It was actually a Bill Hader rabbit hole I first went on and just kept going, and then just fell in love with the show. And then just from there, I've been watching heaps of YouTube. In the last couple of seasons, we've gotten live, so it's been good to kind of watch it big. And yeah, it's good. And also a few years ago, Fred Armisen toured here. I just came into my mind then, and
cool.
I got to meet him, which was amazing and kind of like an amazing experience. So yeah, I've kind of always had SNL stuff to enjoy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I actually got to see Fred Armisen a couple years ago as well. So you fell in love with the cast that I did. So a lot of relatable things. And so you said you're working in journalism. So I just want the listeners, if they ever wanted to check out some of the content that you get to work on, where can people check out some of that?
Yeah, well, I post a lot of it on my Twitter, the Lamb98, and it's a lot of music news and stuff like that. So I post as much as I can, any pieces I'm working on. So that's probably the best way. And also all my radio pieces that I do, I put on there as well. And yeah, they'll link people to certain articles and pieces I'm working on, and hopefully they like them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Ben, one of the cool things that I can promote that I helped you with a little bit was we spoke before the season. You had me on your radio show to talk about the passing of Norm Macdonald. So that was really nice to get to tribute him in that way. And then we also spoke about Kim Kardashian being on Saturday Night Live and kind of what the impact of that was as well. So those were some fun shows that we got to do together.
Yeah, they were big stories and everyone loved them here, and it's so good to get some SNL news to some Australian listeners.
Yeah, so Ben, I mean, I think the thing that a lot of the listeners would love to know from you specifically is, like, I think that probably most of our listeners, I would say like at least more than half, are in North America. They're from Canada or the US and they get to watch SNL live. But what is the experience like on a given weekend watching SNL? You're 16 hours ahead of us on East Coast time. What's that experience like? Do you feel like you're outside of it a little bit, or have working with us in the community and getting to watch the clips, like, do you feel like you don't feel that at all?
Yeah, there is sort of a little bit of disconnect, I guess, but it is sort of not as exciting watching it on maybe like a Sunday afternoon. It's much less intense. But yeah, watching kind of your hot take shows and keeping track of things through Twitter and Reddit and stuff, it definitely gets the excitement high and feels like I'm over there and over in America and part of it. But yeah, there's not really a lot of Australian kind of fandom associated with it. So a lot of it is sort of trying to get myself involved in the American thing, and a lot of Americans talking about it. So I don't know, kind of a bit of both. There is that sort of disconnect because it is not really an enjoyable time, like 3 on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. But then conversely, you've also got a lot of Twitter and Reddit, which sort of keeps me interested and intrigued, and can sort of contact people who are watching it live over in America.
Yeah, so for you, it's like Sunday afternoon live that you're watching it, and it's
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, or is it? Wait, yeah, no, I guess that does make sense with the timing. But yeah, really cool to have you a part of our Patreon community, and I hope that you connect with other people from the Patreon community and patrons. I mean, if you're watching the show and you're listening, definitely reach out to Ben as well. It's great to include people from all around the world and everything we're doing, and that's been the fun of growing the SNL Network over this past season, is that we get to connect people from all around the world. So really appreciative of you, Ben, for your support and having you a part of this. Let's talk about season 47. So, like you said, I mean, you got into SNL through the Bill Hader and Fred Armisen rabbit hole. And what have been your thoughts about SNL, so far this season compared to what you've seen?
I reckon it's been so much energy from the cast. I know it's something you've touched on with a lot of your roundtables and hot takes, but there's sort of just been an indescribable energy. Maybe like since COVID stuff has sort of slowed down in New York and things can sort of get back to normal. There's cameos and sort of more exciting things. I feel like all the cast are just really keen to just get the best work, do the best work they can do. Of course, there's been some things here and there that are a bit that haven't really gone through as best as they could. But I just think it's just like someone's hit refresh on the show, and everything's just so good and exciting. It just makes you want to just keep watching.
Yeah, is there a favorite part of what you've seen so far in 47? Like any, is it the cast members, the specific sketches, or anything that you've noticed that has really like defined the refresh for you?
I think it's a lot to do with Please Don't Destroy. They've given every sketch that they've had work on throughout the season. I reckon it's just been so original and sort of gets back to maybe even the early 90s days or in my opinion, back to those days. It sort of gives it that sort of vibe. And I really think that, and especially their pre-tapes, and even last week, which I'm sure we'll get into, their help with Sarah and Aristotle on the update desk, it's just a new, fresh energy. And it was sort of, I guess, maybe needed that they needed this fresh look for some young kids that can maybe give a bit of an original spin on some sketches and make them so bizarre but so funny and intriguing.
Yeah, it's just so impressive what they're doing. I mean, we talked about this all week long. That was the big, headline coming out of this was, for 5 weeks, the discussion was, hey, James Austin Johnson is coming in and changing the show. But actually, I had a question on the roundtable, and my question for the panelists, Ben, was, is it James Austin Johnson or is it Please Don't Destroy? Or like, if you had to pick one, who is having a bigger impact on the start of the season? And we were 50-50 on that question. Do you have an opinion there?
Yeah, I think I'm sort of 50-50 on it too. I feel like James Austin Johnson has definitely been probably the number one headline. So he's clearly made a massive impact on those first few episodes. We sort of saw him take a back step on the last one. But I think in terms of the whole season and its freshness and its sort of impact on people, I reckon it's definitely Please Don't Destroy that have made it so strong and so good to watch.
Okay. And is there anything that you haven't liked as much in season 47? Like anything that's not doing it for you?
Yeah, good question. I don't usually like to be negative, but
it's okay. You can be negative. It's fine.
Nothing really. There's of course been some sketches here and there that I haven't really gotten into. Oh, it's probably something that isn't that negative, but usually the cold opens are a little lost on me because it is clearly such newsworthy moments for American people. And of course, I don't really keep on track of a lot of American news, so some of them are usually lost on me. But I do quite enjoy watching people. It's usually just a lot of impressions, and I do like hearing audience reactions to impressions, and even if I don't really know who they are. But that's sort of something that's been lost on me, and maybe I haven't really got as much of an impact out of those as other people would have. But besides that, I'm trying to think of any sketches that sort of missed the mark for me. But I guess
you don't have to say specific ones. I just didn't know if there was like a certain thing that was not doing it for you, or if you're mostly happy with the season, that's okay too.
Yeah, mostly happy with it. Yeah,
cool. Okay. Well, let's talk about the episode we just saw, the Jonathan Majors and Taylor Swift episode. So that's the one that happened last Saturday. And yeah, there were a lot of, big headlines coming out of this one, a lot of them to do with Taylor Swift. So what were your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of it's definitely Taylor Swift's episode. As much as I liked Jonathan Majors and loved him in Loki, and I just feel like I've been trying to think about this over the last few days that I don't know if he maybe took a back seat because he knew a lot of people were there for Taylor Swift, or I don't really feel like he made as much of an impact as Taylor Swift or even the rest of the cast. I feel like a lot of my highlights from the episode came from just the cast sketches or the Taylor Swift performance, or even her appearance in the Please Don't Destroy sketch. So yeah, I feel like he didn't really get as far or maybe as impactful as I wanted to. We saw him in the last couple of sketches really get out there, and there was some funny moments in it for me at least. But yeah, that first kind of half, I didn't really. I kind of forgot that he was hosting it a few moments actually.
Yeah. Was there you said those last two sketches, and that was something that I felt too. I felt like I was on a little bit of like on my own when it came to Jonathan Majors' performance in the last two sketches. I kept saying that I really felt like the one at church, the pastor announcement.
Yeah.
I felt like he was pretty good at that, and I don't know why I felt like nobody else saw that.
Yeah, he was very. I don't think I really laughed out loud at many moments. It was a humorous sketch, and he did do very well. I think it was probably like his highlight of the episode because it was really the only sketch where he sort of was a different person. Like he was all dressed, looked different. He was a different character, and that's sort of what I want to get out of a hostess appearance on SNL. This sort of different element of it, because up until then, maybe besides the Broadway benefit sketch, that we saw him just be himself or sort of get a back role to some degree.
Yeah, and I think that the pairing of him and Ego, I think was a really fun pairing because I think that we got to see him with Keenan in one sketch earlier, which I think, some of our panelists seemed to really enjoy that one with the kid stories. And I thought it was okay. And then, some of the other sketches that we saw throughout the night, I didn't necessarily think that like that the placements of like who he was with were he had the right chemistry for, but to me there was something about him with Ego that I wish we got to see more, and just him interacting with the audience. Like I really felt like there was like he was anchoring that in a way that really worked for me. But yeah, like here I played this line on the round table. I'll play it again.
No, George, you are just cheating on your wife.
Like the way he said that, I just felt like was so great, and I feel like it was under the radar, and I wanted to definitely like highlight that as a moment that I think that walking away from this current week as we move on to next week, that there was some things that were here. I just don't think we got to see them. So it's really interesting, Ben, that you said that he potentially decided to take a back seat to Taylor's moment. And what did you think about the Taylor Swift stuff between the Please Don't Destroy video and her performance?
Yeah, I reckon that I think a lot of the cast were, a lot of the audience, were definitely there for Taylor, and we could kind of hear that by the reactions to certain elements. But I loved it. I feel like that she's clearly had many strong appearances on SNL in the past and didn't disappoint this time. I think a lot of people knew that going in that there was going to be the 10-minute version of All Too Well, which I liked, and clearly it's been such a newsworthy thing over there and a lot here as well, actually. And that was awesome, and it's always good to see a strong musical performance like that. It's probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, we've gotten all season, I feel. And that was good fun. And then her thing in Please Don't Destroy, which I know there's a question in regards to this, so we'll get into like full thoughts on it later. But yeah, I think that was really strong, and it was kind of the perfect sketch for her to appear in out of all of them.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think that was the, maybe I'm like part of the masses in this, sense. But I think that during the week, I was like, there was two things that I went back to that I was like, I have to show people. One was the Man Park sketch, because I felt like the lines in there were really just hilarious. And then the Please Don't Destroy video. And I think like you can give or take if you like that stuff or not. And if you feel like there's like a close comparison between Lonely Island and Please Don't Destroy that you may love or hate. I'm probably in more of the love camp, but I just think like I loved every minute of the Please Don't Destroy video, and I would love to see more of that coming up.
Yeah, and that's sort of an interesting too. I'm a lot the same. That Please Don't Destroy and the Man Park sketch, they were my two favorite sketches of the show. But again, both of them didn't feature Jonathan Majors, which kind of reflects the whole episode, I think. But yeah, those are two amazing sketches, and yeah, I agree. They're something I definitely keep going back to, I think.
Well, Ben, the funny thing is like, if there was ever, I don't know if do you guys get SNL Vintage ever down in Australia? Like,
well,
okay, so we here on NBC at 10 o'clock get SNL Vintage, which is a 60-minute version of an old episode of SNL. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking, hey, if they ever put on NBC Vintage the Jonathan Majors and Taylor Swift episode, what would they do? Because if you think about it, Jonathan Majors, not in the cold open, right? They would obviously put his monologue in. I would think that they would have to put Man Park. They would have to put Taylor Swift's 10-minute performance. They would have to put the PDD video. And then they would have to put Sarah and Aristotle on Weekend Update. So it's possible that in the 60-minute version of this episode, there is approximately like 2 minutes of Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, wow, crazy. Jeez. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's ever happened in modern day SNL that I could think of. So what I know that we have some listeners and some people in the chat. Like if you guys ever you keep track of SNL Vintage probably way more than me. So please just, let me know if this episode ever comes up in future seasons, because I'm so curious about that. So that'll be really fun. Ben, is there anything else from this season or this episode that you want to talk about before we start talking about social media?
No, I feel like we definitely covered a lot of it, and it's just been, as we mentioned, an awesome season. There's been so many just quirky and original sketches, and I feel like it's been the perfect season for me to get so involved in and invested in it. I feel like perfect time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. Let's talk about what's happening in social media. Okay, Ben? So I'm going to read out some of the things we got to see in social media this week. And then, you comment, you let me know what you think about what's happening over in SNL social media. Okay, so most of the social media this week, Ben, had to do with Aristotle and Sarah on Weekend Update.
Yes,
okay,
cool.
So let's talk about Sarah, because she came first. And we had basically... It was kind of hard to believe, because again, there were questions about, Sarah and her role on the show and what was going to happen, obviously being a new cast member. But we had so many people, both in the cast and on the crew, rooting for Sarah when it came to her performance on Weekend Update. So what were your thoughts about Sarah's performance on Update?
It was amazing. I was sort of familiar with her pre-SNL, and just the energy she gave to that, and I know, as you mentioned a lot on the round table, the whole make fun of Jost trope is sort of overdone, but I feel like she gave it her own spin, and it was just really, really strong. And I feel like, and as I'm sure we'll get into, she's clearly made an impact on a lot of the writers and a lot of the cast, and I feel like it's just a lot to do with her energy and her approach to things. It's clear that she gets along with a lot of them well, and clearly has found her place early, it seems, which is a strong thing.
Yeah, so if you were on Instagram on Sunday and you were looking through Sunday Eastern time, and you were looking through all of the writers and anybody who was on the cast, I mean, they were taking Instagram stories of Sarah's piece on Update and just rooting her on, unlike anybody I've seen in a very long time. Like Martin Herlihy, part of PDD, there's a photo of him, him taking a picture of the Weekend Update desk with Colin and Michael and Sarah at Sarah Squirm. He put out there. There was Bowen Yang, who came out to watch Sarah and said, "Get him, Squirm," as he was recording or taking pictures of Sarah on Update. We also had Ben Marshall, another part of PDD, says, "Happy for my weird friend at Sarah Squirm." Celeste Yim, they said, "Update debut for Sarah Squirm." So just so many writers and so many people rooting for Sarah. It's unbelievable how much support she has, and I'm so happy to see it.
Yeah, and I've been following a lot of the writers and stuff, and did see all those photos. It's just amazing that they clearly love her so much, love writing for her, and I loved also sort of the other side of it. I love seeing the sort of behind the scenes photos that they've got. It always intrigues me, the sort of glitz and process that goes through behind the scenes. So that was cool to sort of see behind the desk and what sort of happens around that. But yeah, it's amazing to see how much they all love her, and yeah, clearly wanted to do well.
Yeah, and Casey in the chat says PDD's making like a huge impact on the show, and maybe isn't if they aren't making as big of an impact as JJ, Sarah, Aristotle, maybe they secure their spots in the cast next year. And this was something I have been thinking about for a few days, and I really did come to the conclusion that this is my belief. I don't have any insider info on this, Ben, but this is my thought, and I thought I would bring this to you on the Patron feedback show. I think that they were waiting. SNL was waiting to see who was going to leave. And they waited to the very last minute to see if people like Cecily were coming back, if people like Beck Bennett and Kyle Mooney and a lot of the senior cast, A.D. Bryant, if they were going to come back to the show. That's my opinion. And even at the Emmy Awards, I think that there was word from, I think it may have been Cecily said, like, I'm still not sure. I'm still deciding. So this is like up until 2 weeks before. I feel that if more people left, PDD would have been a part of the cast this season. Yeah, and I think that because a lot of people stayed, they kept them as writers. So I think that's my like theory. Do you agree with that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that might be the case. I don't know, we were sort of in contact then and talking about it and sort of seeing things on Twitter and stuff. And yeah, I feel like there was that uncertainty till very close to the announcement. So it sort of makes sense. And they hired a fair amount of writers as well, besides PDD. So it probably makes sense that if they maybe got like a mass exodus of cast, they would have brought them along, and they still would have had enough writers to sort of give the writers' room a refresh. And yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It does seem like there maybe would have been a couple of thoughts going into the reasoning behind hiring Please Don't Destroy. Maybe down the line we'll see them join the cast. That would be very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed for sure. It looks like that right now. I'd be surprised if at least one of them didn't join the cast next year. But yeah, you mentioned it. They had a big part in writing the Sarah piece. So we also got to see the Aristotle piece. We had Jay Farrow, who often comes up on these shows because he's often commenting on Instagram about Laughintosh 3000, which was Aristotle's premiere debut on Weekend Update. NBC SNL says Laughintosh 3000, everyone, and Jay Farrow says he's dope. Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. So really cool to have Jay, like I said, always talking about the show. What were your thoughts on Aristotle as Laughintosh 3000?
Yeah, I liked it. As everyone's kind of discussed, it was very similar, and I know it was sort of a step up from the thing he did at Just for Laughs, but I liked it. He's clearly a strong performer, and has these weird ideas that are sort of another reason why the show is giving the show life. But I kind of was listening to your roundtable, I think, and someone brought this up. I don't remember who, sorry, that I was sort of nervous for him a little bit, that having his own piece, and it was a character piece, and I was of course rooting for him, but then conversely I was a little bit nervous. But he obviously hit it out of the park, and for Jay Farrow to say that, and I know he's sort of been outspoken with things in the past, and you know that if he says it's good, it's clearly good. Not that his opinion sort of would change mine, but you know that it was definitely a strong performance, and I know you brought this up. It'd be interesting to see where he goes from here, and sort of seeing him maybe interact with other casts, because we haven't really seen that much from him so far. But yeah, it's interesting to see his character arc throughout the season.
That's a really good point, Ben, because like we were just talking about Majors and Ego working together in a sketch, and the things that we've seen prominently from Aristotle so far have been Aristotle with Rami Malek, and now we see Aristotle on his own. So there hasn't been any Aristotle and this person work really well together. So I wonder if we can find that throughout the season, because I would say that the Sarah comparison is probably Sarah and Andrew Dismukes seem to have like a little bit of a thing going We saw Sarah and Chloe, who seemed to be very close behind the scenes in all the pictures. They seem to be together. They were sitting next to each other in that dog park sketch. So I'm curious to see who Aristotle is going to bond with and create content with.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing. Or maybe even, like, just thought of it then, maybe even we won't see him. Of course, we'll see him interact with some cast, but maybe his strength does lie in these sketches where he can sort of take center stage, like Angelo and like this update piece. Maybe that's his stronger thing, and maybe that's what we'll see, him interact with the cast, him interact with the host, like he did with Angelo. Maybe that's all we'll see from him, which will be an interesting thing to sort of consume over the rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay. So another rookie this year, we spoke about him a bit, James Austin Johnson at ShrimpJAJ on Twitter, and he's a great follow. He says, this is maybe too inside baseball, but it would have been so funny if in the meeting after dress rehearsal, Lorne was like, Taylor, we're trimming 7 minutes from All Too Well, just for time, end quote.
I love that. I love that it sort of gives, like, big fans like us and everybody that listens to this sort of that little wink and brings us into his little group and sort of like a little in joke. And I love that. It would have been funny if that happened, but wouldn't maybe not have an impact.
Yeah, I don't think that Lorne was touching anything Taylor Swift wanted to do. I think he was just happy to have Taylor on his show. No chances that Taylor was going to walk off the show. So he was making sure that, hey, Taylor, you want 10 minutes? You want 20 minutes? You can take it. Like, I think that's what Lorne was up for.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you a big Taylor Swift fan, Ben?
No, I wouldn't call myself a big fan. She definitely is talented and clearly has a lot of fans and a lot of following, and loves her fans. And I love I know there's been a bit of socials from her and in the lead up to this All Too Well release, and I love her sort of the secrets she puts in and hidden things, and that's always intrigued me, and news stories about that, all the sort of Easter eggs, that's the word that she puts in, that's always intrigued me. But she's definitely very talented. I liked her performance on Saturday, and she's definitely talented.
Yeah, her marketing team is like off the charts with everything they do. It's just it's so great. Speaking of Taylor Swift, we saw I don't know if you got a chance to catch this, but before the show on Saturday, SNL tweeted out and put on their Instagram a video of Chris Redd singing Taylor Swift songs in a jacket and a red hat, and put Red, which is the name of Taylor's new album, or old album redone, but Red with 2 D's. So for Chris Redd, Taylor's version, and he's singing in the office, and it was really funny. Definitely go back and check out this video of Chris Redd.
Oh, I'll definitely check that out. I love that I think I did come across that, and I love that it seems like from the minute she arrived that everyone was just in a good mood. From things I was keeping an eye on throughout the week, it seems like that she just put everyone in such a good mood, and it's clear why she keeps getting invited back, and is such a big sort of focal point of each episode she's a part of.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw how many people were backstage for Taylor Swift, but we talked about this a little bit. But during the show on TikTok, there was a video of Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez, and they were just chilling back there, and there was just so many people. Ryan Reynolds was there, like just celebrities coming out just for Taylor Swift. So it's really just like hard to imagine how big of an impact this was backstage, and how cool this was for the cast that everybody came out for this. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, I did see a lot of that. There's just so many, just anyone you can think of was there. And that might be actually part of the reason why there's so much energy in this episode. Maybe everyone was putting on a good show because they knew the A-list celebrities that were watching from backstage.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. Okay, so then we also got let me see if I can bring this one up. I think this one would be fun to put on the screen for people who are watching live. Here we go. I'll bring that up. This is a NBC host and NBC SNL host baton pass. This is from Lindsay Shukas, who works at SNL. And she takes a photo and posts a photo of Jonathan Majors and Simu Liu, who was attending SNL this week. So, Ben, I know this is something that has been done in the past. Curious your thoughts on having, if you're a new host and you're coming in, do you think it's a good idea to watch the show prior to yours?
Yeah, I think so. And it's clear that these two get along, I guess, being Marvel cast members. And I think that it may be cool, even just to be maybe not get involved with everything, but sort of be a sit on the back seat and sort of watch how things go on. Because I know from reading things in the past and seeing people, it's clearly a big commitment for the week, and there's so many shocking things and things that sort of you don't expect going in. Long hours. We saw from Kim Kardashian. She mentioned there were long hours and sort of she didn't expect how big the task was. And it's probably good them sort of, or similarly you coming on and so seeing the behind the scenes and chatting with Jonathan Majors about who knows what they talked about, but maybe like what he did, any advice he had. So I reckon it's a really good thing, and it sort of gets people excited.
Let me fill you in on what their conversation was. Simu Liu goes to Jonathan Majors and says, like, "Hey man, like, just tell me, like, what did you do this week?" And Jonathan Majors says, "I did nothing. don't tell anybody, but I wasn't involved in anything." So,
You're probably right.
yeah. So Jonathan Majors says, "Hey, Simu Liu, if you would like a good, easy week at SNL, just go to Saweetie and tell her to invite all of her friends to the show and tell her to tell Lauren I'm walking off the show unless you give me 10 minutes. That's the way to do a great SNL."
That would be interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure Jonathan Majors had a lot of great advice for Simu Liu about how to host SNL. He's definitely the one with a ton of screen time who knows how to do that. Okay. Yeah, if you're listening somewhere, love you, Jonathan. Okay. This came to me right before the show. This is from our friend Nicole, who sent this to me. And Ben, I didn't actually get a chance to put this on the doc, so I think you'll find this interesting. Okay, but you just brought her up, so I think we have to talk about her a little bit. This is about Kim Kardashian. Okay, so I this is the follow up to the story that you had me on your radio show to talk about. Okay. Pete Davidson, this is from page 6. Pete Davidson is officially going to have to keep up with the Kardashians. Page 6 has exclusively learned that the Skims founder, 41, and the Saturday Night Live star, 28, are officially dating. The news of their budding romance comes after several dates in Davidson's native New York City and Kardashian's hometown of Los Angeles. The king of Staten Island star most recently traveled to California for his birthday on Tuesday and spent time with Flavor Flav at the Keeping Up with the Kardashians alum mom's Kris Jenner's Palm Springs mansion. The photographic evidence of the odd grouping also served as a means to promote Kardashian's Skims pajamas, as Davidson, the reality star, and Jenner, 66, were each wearing a set. As they say, the couple that twins together stays together. Reps for the new couple didn't immediately return Page 6's requests for comments. So, Ben, thoughts?
Wow, there's so many thoughts there. That just it's so like out of. It just feels like it's otherworldly. That thing you just read. It's just so. I just can't get my thoughts straight about it. It's just amazing the impact Pete Davidson has on so many people, and he's clearly made an impact on many hosts and musical guests in the past. And
I guess you could say that he's made an impact, yeah,
without getting too much into the details. And it's clearly followed on with this Kim Kardashian thing. So I think, yeah, really good on him for shooting his shot, I guess. And yeah, it's just I'm just so lost for words. That's shocking. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know where my thoughts are spinning. I mean, look, I think we all knew that this was probably legitimate and not just necessarily for publicity, but I mean, you could cross off. I mean, look, we're running out of people, Pete. You know, like you're really crossing off all of the top Hollywood women that's available. So, yeah, this is kind of crazy. Wait, hold on. Am I getting word that? Oh, we get. You want some breaking news?
Yeah.
Okay, we have some breaking news right now on air, live on the podcast, Ben. Okay, This is not a bit. I'm being very serious. Okay, we have our December shows announced for. This happened live on the podcast. Can you believe that?
Really?
Okay. Yeah. No, I swear. This is not a bit. Okay. Let me just pull this up. We have our actual December announcement is coming up. So if you haven't seen this, I'm going to be pulling this up right now. Okay.
Very exciting.
Yes. Okay. This is very special. Hold on. Let me just pull this up for anybody who's watching live. We have our December announcement. So I'll get your opinion on that while we go through our patron feedback show. Okay. Here we go. All right. December 11th, host Billie Eilish and musical guest Billie Eilish. Why do they need 2 cards? They could just put 1 card. Okay. So we have Billie Eilish as the host and musical guest. Wow. All right. Interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, she's definitely shot up even more than she was lately, and I don't know. It's clear, like looking at things through her TikTok and reading things about her, she's clearly got some comedic timing and doesn't take herself too seriously. So I reckon she'll kill it. It'll be great to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really interesting. I believe this is our 8th first-time host in a row, so this is kind of crazy. But Billie Eilish obviously been a musical guest before, so this will be fun. I have no idea what to expect with Billie Eilish. Again, first initial thoughts on this while we get this breaking news. I don't know her to have a huge personality, so this will be interesting to see how she does on the show. But it's very fun. A lot of people had no expectations for Halsey, so this will be cool to see what's going to happen with Billie Eilish.
Yeah, and then just thinking about it, then it'll also sort of host in the past. You can sort of think, all right, Kim Kardashian. I sort of know what sort of sketches she'll take place in. Jonathan Majors, you can sort of guess to some degree what sort of sketches she'll take place in. But yeah, I agree with you that Billie Eilish, you don't really know where the writers would even start with it. Is she going to be sort of that bit player like Jonathan Majors was, just sort of to some degree, just behind the scenes and sort of that, or will she? Yeah, it'll just be. I wonder how they'll sort of approach this on the writing standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be interesting. We're going to have a lot of coverage, talking about what to expect from Billie Eilish coming up. And then we also have our Christmas show, which will be on December 18th. And that will be the 5th appearance. So joining the 5-Timers Club will be Paul Rudd. So joining Alec Baldwin, Steve Martin, John Goodman, Buck Henry, Tom Hanks, Chevy Chase, Christopher Walken, Elliot Gould, Danny DeVito, Drew Barrymore, Tina Fey, Scarlett Johansson, Candice Bergen, Bill Murray, Justin Timberlake, Ben Affleck, Melissa McCarthy, Dwayne Johnson, Jonah Hill, Will Ferrell, and now Paul Rudd into the 5-Timers Club. So excited to have Paul back, Ben.
Yeah, he definitely is he is definitely worthy to join all those names that you just mentioned, and he's a perfect choice for the Christmas episode. I think he hosted one in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so he did one. I think it was in 2013 with One Direction. I think, is that correct?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I remember that. Yeah, that's it was it the Christmas episode? No, it was an episode in December, but it wasn't the Christmas episode.
But it was in that sort of time where everyone was excited for Christmas, and I feel like he sort of gives that vibe to his comedic performances as well. It's always such a feel-good thing, and I guess all comedy is, but for him, for some degree, his sort of presence makes people, I feel like, in such a good mood. Any movie he's in, whether it's drama to comedy, he's gonna kill it. In the all Paul Rudd episodes I've watched, and I love him, so I watched them all previously in full, and he never fails. Not that is sort of like no pressure to him, but I feel like this will be an easy episode for him, and it'll be a great one to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. Honestly, Paul Rudd is probably one of my favorite hosts of SNL ever, I think. So it'll be really exciting to see what we get from him from the Christmas episode. I think it's going to be really, really fun. We have musical guest Charlie XCX, so she will be great on there as well. And you had mentioned other Christmas episodes, 2 of his hosting ones. I mean, they're not Christmas episodes, but they are December episodes. He also did one with Paul McCartney in 2010, I believe. So he kills it every time he's out there. Yeah,
he'll be perfect for it. And it'd be a perfect. On what's been such a strong season so far, it'd be the perfect sort of end note for this first portion of the season, and everyone will be so excited going into the new year. I know this will just be an easy A+ episode for me.
Yes. Yeah, this will be exciting. Okay, so lots to come in terms of our opinions from all of our panelists on Billie Eilish as the host and musical guest doing double duty on December 11th, and Paul Rudd and Charlie XCX joining us for the Christmas episode. So this was actually perfect timing. They, somehow SNL knew we were doing our social media section, and just release the cast, the hosting announcements for December while we're doing it. So we got to talk a little bit about it on the podcast. So if anybody is listening and joins us later in the show and has questions, we could always talk about that as well coming up. Okay. Are you ready to take some questions from the patrons and from anybody else who sent in questions during the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Ben, let me ask you, do you have that document open? Was there a certain question that stood out to you that you wanted to start with?
I've got it here. Yeah, I'd love to start with the one from, I don't think I've got the names. Oh, yeah, there we go, from Manette. What is it about PDD's comedy that's making them a frequent contribution to sketches and Weekend Update outside of the pre-tapes that they do? I thought that'd be a great sort of point to start.
Okay, yeah. So we talked a little bit about Please Don't Destroy, but let's talk about from Monette. One of our great listeners says, what is it about PDD's comedy that makes them a freaking contribution to sketches and Weekend Update outside of pre-tapes?
Yeah, but sort of before that, something that what came into my mind just then, I feel like that they write perfectly for the episode. Like we saw them with, just to quickly mention the pre-tapes, we saw them with Rami. Rami just killed it in that Rami Wants a Treat sketch or pre-tape, and even this episode from last week, I feel like Please Don't Destroy knew that a lot of the audience would be Taylor Swift fans, and we sort of saw from the Kim Kardashian episode that I feel like maybe Kim Kardashian and Taylor Swift fans might be sort of similar to some degree, and clearly when Pete came on in the Kim K episode in the cold open, the crowd went crazy because they clearly sort of the same fandom, and I feel like Please Don't Destroy knew that the Taylor Swift fandom might be similar, so brought Please Don't Destroy on, brought Taylor Swift on, and that is what made it such a good sketch because they knew that the audience would like it. So I wonder if that's sort of something that comes into their mind when writing it, and that's just sort of a thought I wanted to start on with this question. I know it doesn't relate to it directly, but I feel like it's something that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good point. I think that I just think that they're very creative. I think they're young and fresh, and I think people really like working with them. It's definitely underrated, and I'll say directly to Monette, who I know just probably asking the question generally, but I think that relationships behind the scenes are everything, especially in your early years at SNL. And I think that when you are Please Don't Destroy and you're coming in and you are just building relationships with people on the cast, and like all these new players, they're all coming in together. So like Sarah, Aristotle, JAJ, like people who have been like new cast members over the last 5 years who have come in could only wish to have Please Don't Destroy join the crew at the same time as them, because it's like they're all a part of their like freshman high school class together. So yeah. It's like all this dynamic talent is working together to figure out how to best produce content on the show. And I think that's what's making it so fascinating, is that you have like a perfect mix of like the right talent coming together.
Yeah, I agreed. And that is definitely why I feel like they've had such an impact on sketches and Weekend Update outside of the pre-tapes, because they seem to, as we've seen from all the social media you mentioned, they clearly get really, really along well with Sarah, and even we saw for the men's bathroom sketch that Bowen sent an email to them, and which sounded like a really simple and this might sound mean, but it sounded like a really simple and maybe unfunny idea on paper, but Please Don't Destroy clearly just took it to another level, and maybe their approach to comedy and their ability to sort of befriend people and maybe just joke around with them outside of writing and just makes them get along, and they can just work well together and create something that people are talking about and people are talking about weeks after it's aired.
Yeah, I think, it is really fascinating that Bowen, who has been on the cast for at least 3 years now, or going into his third year, I guess, and he had a really good idea for a sketch, and he went to Please Don't Destroy about it. Or, maybe he found his way to Please Don't Destroy about it. And I think that it goes to show you that even more senior cast members are starting to trust them, and they are like the new hot shit behind the scenes. And I think people are really excited to work with them. So I think that's the answer to the question. I think it's about relationships, and Please Don't Destroy is doing everything right now. Yeah.
Okay. And it'd just be so cool to see what the future holds for them. I'm sure heaps more crazy sketches, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Ben, this one is from Blood Meriden. Says, with JAJ being the show's resident impressionist at the moment, what do you think Aristotle and Sarah's position on the show will be after getting 2 major showcases before the mid-season break? So where do you envision Aristotle and Sarah in this cast moving forward?
Yeah, this is a great question. And we did sort of touch on this before, but I feel like in a perfect world, the sort of gross out humor that we've seen from Sarah hopefully can find its way onto SNL, which I don't really feel like it ever will. Maybe not to the degree that the sketches she put on her YouTube video, the outward grossness of those videos. I don't feel like it'll ever reach that stage, but hopefully we can see her get that sort of 10-to-1 sketch where people are expecting this bizarreness. So that's hopefully where I'd hope that Sarah goes to. And in terms of Aristotle, as much as I'd love to see him, as we mentioned, interact with other cast members, I would love to see him do more single characters like this, that just bizarre characters with what seem like a lot of depth, like Angelo and the Weekend Update piece. It's clear that a lot of work has been put into them. He's been performing them for years. I'm not sure if he has any other characters like that. From memory, I think there was one or two more from that just for last sketch, which we might see down the line. I'd love to see him continue to do that, and maybe also in that 10-to-1 spot. Just the bizarre way he approaches comedy, and he clearly has an impact on his personal work, and his solo work clearly has a bigger impact than the work he's done in other sketches. So I sort of hope that he will get to see him showcased like that a little more. But yeah, it's a great question, and hopefully we see JAJ keep killing it with the impressions, which I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting is like when cast members like JAJ do so well early on with impressions, it's always interesting to see them in a non-impression role. So like it was a little bit like, I don't know what the right word is, like maybe jarring or like surprising to see JAJ in that advertising sketch just as like a normal dad. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that to see them do like other things. And I think it's like the same thing with Sarah. It's like Sarah's going to do the eccentric stuff eventually down the road. I'm sure SNL is going to let her do the gross out stuff. But the fact that she is also doing like something like we got to see on Update this week is a good balance. So I'm liking what we're getting to see from Sarah right now. And then Aristotle, I genuinely have no idea. Like I really would love to see where he fits into this cast. Part of our conversation, like we addressed before, we just haven't seen where Aristotle is going to fit with other cast members yet. And once we know that, and hopefully we have 3 more episodes to figure that out, once we know that, then we can, kind of anticipate where we're going to see Aristotle down the road.
Yeah. Hopefully we see him just kill it more. But yeah, that's actually a good point. He's sort of, Sarah and JAJ have to some degree found their way in the cast and found a position. But yeah, Aristotle, I feel like you're right. He is sort of maybe not as established as Sarah and JAJ have been in 6 episodes, which is crazy to think that they've made such an impact in so few episodes. But yeah, it'll be great to see what happens with them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Do you want to read this next one from Belle?
Yeah. Let's have a look. After last week, could we see Sarah be the next update anchor after Che and Jost? It's another great question. And I sort of think that she could, maybe if she doesn't find a way with her gross out humor. A lot of the stand-up I've seen on YouTube of hers, there is that, maybe not as much of that gross out element, but there is that just sort of crazy energy, crazy approach to jokes that are just so out of the ordinary or so simple that they're so funny. And I feel like if she doesn't find her way with these sketches, that she might find a spot on Update and can give this energy to it that we saw on her Update piece. And yeah, it would be cool to see if that happened. Realistically, I probably don't think that it would be something that people would be thinking behind the scenes, but I would love to see her be a host on there. But yeah, what do you think of that?
She would be. I mean, I think it's definitely premature to start putting her, imagining her being on Weekend Update. I think that she did pretty well in this one, but she's very different than any female we've seen on Weekend Update before. Like she's definitely has a different personality than Tina. Maybe there's a little bit of Amy Poehler in her. I could see that for sure. Yeah, I could see Amy Poehler. I could see that actually. She's Jane Curtin. I don't know. But I see Yeah, I could see her being in the Amy Poehler role. I think it just depends where they would like who they would put next to her, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Even looking at sort of head writers and stuff, and people who may be, or writers and maybe a chance for the weekend update role, and sort of being aware of their YouTube videos. I don't really feel like anyone on the writing staff, which is I know usually the way people get onto the update desk. I don't feel like anyone really sit with her well, but who knows? Who knows what the future will hold?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see to see that for sure. I've always said I think that Ego and Bowen would be a really fun update team. So yeah. I think that would be interesting. But yeah, down the road, I think a little bit too early for that one. Next question from Harper Ellis. Harper says, with Kyle being in the most sketches this week, do you see the trend continuing? So Kyle was in 7 sketches this week, Ben. That was the most we've seen from any cast member all season. Actually, no cast member has been in more than 5 this season. So wow. Thoughts on Kyle?
Yeah, I did see this question, and I was trying to think back. I don't feel like he's clearly a talented performer, but I don't feel like he made an impact in all of the sketches as much as he could have. I know, of course, some roles he was behind the scenes or maybe 1 or 2 lines, but I didn't feel like he was in a lot of sketches. But I really feel like the trend does continue because we've seen him in so many Cut for Time sketches in previous seasons, and it's so good that he's getting this platform and getting a chance. And I wonder where that's coming from. Maybe that Beck left, but I don't really feel like they were 2 of the same. And maybe that Kate's away. Maybe it's giving him more of a chance to take roles that maybe usually would have went to them. But we've been trying to think what the reasoning, because we've even previous to this episode, he has been popping up a lot more, and especially the one that I found the best was I've forgotten what the name was, but the Kim Kardashian Bachelor sketch. I reckon he killed it there, and it's still
the Dream Guy. Yeah,
the Dream Guy, that was it, and that's still so far my highlight for him this season. He just killed it in that. But yeah, I wonder where it's coming from, and I of course hope that the trend continues. He's a great performer and can clearly play so many characters. Or even in the pastor announcement, sorry, these thoughts are just coming to me straight away. Even in the pastor sketch, his character was awesome there as well, and he's clearly a really talented performer, and of course would love to see the trend continuing. But it'll be interesting to see if when Kate comes back, I know that they're not really usually, you could really swap their roles, but maybe that there's less of a platform for him. I don't know, but of course would love to see the trend continue.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to go one of 2 ways. Okay, this is either going to be Kyle's last season, and he's just, whatever you want to put me in, I'm around, whatever I want to, go out on a high, or he's going to go into the Keenan thing, and he's just going to say like, look, I'm fine with just being here, chilling, and then if you want to put me in 1 thing a week, I don't care. If you want to put me in 7 things a week, I don't care. I'll just do whatever and say a good line here or there, because that's what he was doing on Saturday. He was just like, got a bunch of bit rolls, so that was fine. Yeah,
and that's a good point you bring up. I feel like down the line he could become a Keenan, because even in the sketches he did on the last episode, he did seem like he was almost an anchor for it, which is a lot of what Keenan's roles are. That when Keenan's in it, it's going to be a funny sketch, or he'll have some funny elements. If all the other part of the sketch suck, that Keenan will be funny. And I feel like Kyle, you're right, he is sort of I feel like he might get that role, and any sketch he does appear in, he never fails with his 1 line or 2 lines that just kill it.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, next question from Fupa TV says here.
Fupa TV.
Yeah, I pulled that before. Says, any word on when Kate McKinnon will be coming back, and how will that change the season? So no word on Kate. I would think she might be back for the Billie Eilish episode on December 11th. I think there's a good chance. But Ben, if anybody knows, it would be you, right? Because Kate's down in Australia.
Yes, she's down under here. I think she's filming in Queensland, which I looked up and is about 1,000 miles away. I'm not sure what that means to me, but I thought your listeners would sort of understand that. But I feel like Kate's clearly a really talented performer, and I don't know, you might agree with this, that a lot of roles, I feel like a lot of female roles and even male roles to some degree went to her automatically. And I feel like if hypothetically, if she was here during the first episode of the season, a lot of JAJ's impressions might have gone to her and maybe make him have a back seat. And I feel like in the very limited sketches we've gotten from women-centric sketches, I know that's something you've mentioned, it's been a very bro-tastic season, that we've had a good spread of the female cast. Like we've seen, and even it was great on Saturday, we saw Punky come up in a sketch, and Chloe's been great in a few sketches, and maybe Melissa hasn't really appeared as much as anyone would want her to. But I feel like if Kate was there, that she might have maybe taken a few of those roles away from that cast and maybe been a focal point for a lot of the sketches, which isn't a bad thing because she's a clearly talented performer. But I feel like when she comes back, that might be a thing that happens, but hopefully it doesn't. And she is just put in for her strengths, her impression she does well, and the role she does well. But who knows? And another thing that would be great to see is maybe her and Please Don't Destroy, if they get along and they write a sketch, and because I feel like they have a very similar energy to comedy, or very different energy, and it'd be awesome to see what the contrast of that'll be. And I'm sure they'll be creating some amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder, like, if Kate comes back, like the show does look different, when Kate was there to now Kate coming back. So I do wonder how she integrates with the new cast and the new writers. I think she'll be fine. She's like one of the best ever, but the one I'm worried about is Heidi Gardner. I'm worried about her taking roles away from Heidi, because I think Heidi's doing really well, and I'm worried about that, honestly.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And Heidi in the past clearly hasn't got as much time as maybe other performers, and it's been great to see her. And I think you mentioned it on a few episodes ago on maybe your roundtable. She's just so talented. She can take any role, and just clearly the audience love to see her as well. But yeah, I'm hoping that people behind the scenes and writers are knowing that we want to see these less frequent cast. And yeah, who knows?
Okay, this is from Ike Moore, one of our patrons. I believe he'll be joining us for a patron feedback show in December. Ike says, will it be hard for Sarah to find the balance of gross out humor and the mainstream SNL humor? So we talked a lot about Sarah today. Just very briefly, if you want to answer the question really quickly, will she be able to find a good balance?
Yeah, I don't feel like she will. I feel like it'll go one way or the other. She'll go crazy into the gross stuff, or maybe just sit back and do the pieces she's been doing, and maybe do the sort of weekend update, stand-up-ish type stuff. Yeah,
I wish I was optimistic about the gross stuff. I don't think we're going to be getting it as much as people would like. So I tend to agree with you, Ben. Okay, this one is from sorry if I mispronounced, Jean or John. Monique Palilio says, when will Taylor Swift host again? So would you like to see Taylor Swift host the show again, Ben?
Yeah, she's as we mentioned before, she stole this episode, not in a bad way. She clearly made a massive impact on this episode. And even the one she hosted back a few years ago, when I think she was only 18 or 19. And for a young person to be that talented for something at such a young age, I would love to see her host again. And maybe down the line, of course, neither of us know when exactly that she'll host. But I think there's a few more re-records she's doing, and maybe next season there's an opportunity for her to do. And I wonder if she was maybe approached to double duty this episode and maybe had too many other things going on. Because it maybe made more sense if she hosts double duty. But
I agree. If I was gonna bet on it, I bet you she was asked to double duty this. I mean, if they were gonna ask Billie Eilish, I think they would have asked Taylor Swift. Yeah.
I wonder, maybe she had too many other things going on with the short film that she released, and who knows?
Yeah. Okay. This is from Jeremy Boulard. Jeremy says, expectations for Simu Liu. So let's close the chapter on everything from Jonathan Majors and Taylor Swift. Let's look ahead to this week. We're excited about the December shows, but we still got one more show, and that's with Simu Liu and Saweetie. So what are your expectations for Simu Liu? Have you seen Shang-Chi?
Yeah, loved Shang-Chi. He's clearly a very talented performer, and next to Awkwafina, they both killed it. And I love the sort of, I'm not usually a fan of the Marvel movie, the comedic element of Marvel movies, but I feel like it really hit the mark in Shang-Chi. And I love him in Kim's Convenience as well. And I really have high expectations, which isn't really a good thing, I know, going into any SNL episode. But he clearly is a very funny person, and we've seen him on his Twitter as well. He's doesn't take himself too seriously, which is obviously a really great starting point to become a host. And I really hope, because I feel like in the Kieran Culkin episode and in Jonathan Majors, we haven't seen any, maybe there's been little bits here and there, but there hasn't been any funny elements from the host. Like, I haven't really laughed out loud at anything either of them have said. So I really think that similarly we'll have some funny lines and maybe be an anchor of a sketch that can be funny. And I know he has good delivery, so I really have high expectations. And I really hope Awkwafina does pop up, because her episode back in season 44, I think, she was amazing and killed it. And just straight from her monologue, that was amazing. And I really feel like she'll pop up, because I think she still lives in New York, and they clearly get along together, have an amazing chemistry. And the SNL team obviously love her, and I really hope she pops up. But yeah, have high expectations, and I know that similarly will follow through.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ben. It's been a little bit unfortunate. I mean, I really thought the Kieran Culkin episode was great, but I did feel that, it wasn't Kieran Culkin that was going to, make the show, amazing, or he didn't necessarily have the impact on the reason why the show was so great. And Jonathan Majors certainly didn't have a major impact. Or Major's impact this week, but the Simu Liu coming in, like I think I have high hopes that he will be a strong presence on the show this week. We haven't had that many this season. I mean, obviously Jason stands out as the big host impact on the show. For the most part, it's been the writing and the cast that has impacted the high quality of the season. I don't know that any particular host besides Jason, I could say, put the show over the top. So I'm excited about it. I mean, we know that Paul Rudd will probably do that for Christmas, so it'll be interesting to see, if Simu Liu or even Billie Eilish down the road could potentially have an impact on the show.
Yeah, and something that just came into mind then, I feel like another thing that plays into what you were saying about hosts not really having a massive impact. The monologues have been sort of short and sharp this season, and maybe haven't really made much of an impact. And Jason's obviously killed it. And I really feel like, similarly, watching him in interviews on Kimmel, and I think he was on Fallon a few times, he clearly can tell jokes well. So I really feel like that'll be a great point for him, and he'll kill it there. Hopefully, if he doesn't, hopefully he does. But if he doesn't really make his mark in sketches, I feel pretty confident that he'll make a mark in the monologue.
Yeah, and K Quiz and Ken in the chat both say Rami Malek as well. Yeah, I agree. Rami Malek definitely had an impact on the show, so I agree. Kim K is funny too, but I just mean that, like, if you put a replacement level host into an episode, are there hosts this season that elevated the show tremendously? Maybe Rami Malek did a little bit, Jason did a lot. So my question is like, of these next three, will we get that to happen? And I have no expectations for what exactly Simu Liu is going to do, but I was very impressed with him in Shang-Chi, and I think he's going to be on Jimmy Fallon tonight. So I'm definitely going to watch that to, get a feel for how his week is going and what we can, learn before Saturday.
Yeah, it'd be great to see, and hopefully he kills it.
Yes, I agree. Okay, well, that is all our patron feedback for this week, unless anybody in the chat has any questions for us before we head off. It was really, crazy to get this announcement on air for December 11th. Like I said, Billie Eilish, host and musical guest. December 18th, Paul Rudd and Charlie XCX as our Christmas show. So this could be really fun. I'm really excited for what we get for our next 3 episodes before we head to the break. Ben, any final thoughts for you on season 47 or these next 3 shows?
Yeah, I feel like as this perfect timing, this announcement while we were talking about it, but I feel like you sort of know Billie Eilish will be strong, maybe not, or the cast will be strong. They've had such a crazy energy, that they'll be strong in Billie Eilish, and Paul Rudd will kill it. He never fails. And I feel like this crazy energy will just keep going until this Christmas episode. And yeah, as we mentioned before, this energy will last till it starts up back in 2022. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Ken in the chat's asking, is 8 new hosts in a row breaking the record? I don't think so, Ken. I know with 7, it was definitely since the writer's strike year. I have to go back and check. Probably, I believe there was one year that I remember checking, and there was 8 in a row. So I don't think it is a record, but it is definitely a surprise. I would say that SNL tends to do this thing where if they're going to go with all new hosts at the beginning of the year, I think we're going to get a lot of returnees in 2022. That would be my expectation for that. I guess we'll see. Ben, you were so fantastic on the feedback show today. Thank you for joining us and breaking everything down. It was just so great to get to hear from you. Where can people check out everything you're doing down in Melbourne?
Yeah, well, it was great to talk to you. I love talking about SNL. Catch on my Twitter there, BenjLam98, where I post, I'm starting to post a lot more articles and radio things I'm working on. And yeah, from there, people can link to my other socials, a lot on Instagram as well. And yeah, got some cool things happening in 2022, a few more comedy things happening and a lot more SNL coverage. And yeah, just hook up with me there.
Yeah, awesome. So, I can't wait to get to talk to you a little bit more, and it's fun to get more of the Australian audience interested in our show over here in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it can be just more and more fans over here.
Okay, so tell the listeners where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, well, again, on my BenjLam98, that's probably the best port for it. And yeah, hopefully we can meet all the SNL fans over there and keep working and keep in touch.
Yeah. And I think, Nicole, I just want to make a note. Nicole in the chat saying 13 consecutive first-time hosts in a row is a record when you combine the end of season 46 and now season 47. So that's a good note. We'll have to check like the start of an episode, start of a season. How many in a row is that record? But yeah. Anyways, if you missed the show and you're just joining us because you heard about the new coverage, the new hosts, and you want to get some coverage, this will be available for replay, so you can watch us on YouTube. You can also find this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to us anywhere to never miss any shows we are doing. You can follow us at the SNL Network on all social platforms: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, to catch all of our content as we start preparing for Simu Liu coming up this week. And you can follow me at John Shire 24. Feel free to reach out whenever if you have any questions at all about anything we are doing. Okay, Ben, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see all of you next time. Have a good one.